Hello, my name is Valeria López, and this is my evidence number 3. Important events of the last decades. The Persian Gulf War. The Persian Gulf War began on August 2nd, 1990, and came to an end on February 28th, 1991. This conflict is also known as Operation Desert Storm. The cause of this war was Iraq's decision, under the order of Saddam Hussein, the president of Iraq in that period, to invade and occupy its neighboring country, Kuwait. The United States got involved in this conflict due to nations such as Saudi Arabia and Egypt being alarmed by the sudden actions of Iraq. This conflict came to an end with Bush ordering to cease fire and the Iraq forces in Kuwait surrendering. The dissolution of the USSR. On December 31st, 1991, the Soviet Union got separated into 14 independent countries such as Latvia, Ukraine, Armenia, Estonia, and more. The Soviet Union was falling apart softly for a prolonged period of time, its economy getting worse each year, and none of the leaders that held power during these periods did anything to change it. Many movements against communism and the ideals of the USSR began to take place. The actions mentioned previously led to the dissolution of the USSR. The World Wide Web launches into the public domain. On April 30th, 1993, the European Organization for Nuclear Research put the World Wide Web in public domain. Tim Berners-Lee is the one responsible of releasing the source code for the first browser to ever exist. The World Wide Web going into public domain could be considered as one of the first steps into the digital era. Terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers in New York. On September 11, 2001, one of the most tragic and deadliest terrorist attacks happened on the United States. Members of the Al-Qaeda group were the ones who were executed such terrorist acts. They hijacked 4 planes in total and crashed 2 of them into the Twin Towers. The mastermind behind these attacks was Osama bin Laden. After these tragic events occurred, the US began to combat terrorism seriously and implemented more anti-terrorism ideals. The iPhone was launched. On January 9, 2007, Steve Jobs revealed the launch of the iPhone. The creation of this smartphone would play a huge role into the development and growth of the digital era. The reason why this phone had such a big amount of hype was due to its features, especially the touchscreen. During the first year of sales, they sold more than 1.4 million iPhones. The Russo-Ukrainian War. The Russo-Ukrainian War began on February 2014, and it is a conflict that is still ongoing. This conflict is between Ukraine and Russia. The conflict began after Russia moved troops into Ukraine's Crimea, beginning to take control of strategic positions. Later, Russian troops took control of Crimea. Armed conflicts broke out between the two nations and still are ongoing. Recently, the tension in between these wars has grown, and now other countries have gotten involved. The COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19's beginnings took place in Wuhan, China, in November of 2019. The cause of the uprising of this virus remains unknown, whether it was lab-created or just a mutation that occurred. Human-to-human transition began. This virus began to spread all over the world slowly but surely. We reached a point in which most countries, if not all, had COVID cases. Sanitary measures began to take place and many flights got canceled. Quarantine was necessary in order to prevent its spread. More variants began to emerge, but so was the vaccine created. The situation began to improve. Now, here we have some concepts that are related with the events mentioned previously. So the first one is globalization. Globalization can be described as the interdependence in constant growth between nations. It can be described as this constant trade regarding economic, political, technological, and cultural areas. This has been able to occur due to technological advancements in recent centuries. An example related to the events mentioned previously would be the expansion of COVID. It was possible due to globalization, the constant traveling of people, and due to many reasons led to the expansion of COVID. And when people were able to know about this virus thanks to technology. Terrorism. Terrorism is defined as violent, unlawful acts which are committed by individuals or groups who are affiliated with terrorist nations or associations. The main objective of terrorism is to implement fear on the population. An example related to the events mentioned previously would be the attack of the Twin Towers on September 11th, 2001, and the organization involved in this attack. A unipolar world. A unipolar world can be defined as when the world is mostly dominated by a nation, not only in economical and political aspects, but also the cultural and social influences play a huge role. An example related to the events mentioned previously, after the Cold War, with the loss of the Soviet Union, there was only one leading powerful nation who had the greatest influence, which was the United States. Digital era. The digital era is known for its constant technological developments and the change from the traditional industry into a more technological one. We have reached a point in which most of us depend on technology. An example related to the events mentioned previously would be the World Wide Web going to public domain, as well as the launch of the first iPhone. The development of the internet and the smartphone have played a huge role in the digital era and how we work now. So, why did the globalization emerge? Some of the main reasons why globalization began to emerge is the constant need of nations to grow, and one of the best ways to achieve that is to collaborate with other countries. The two main causes would have to be the economic and political changes that have affected society globally. Commerce can be considered as one of the most important reasons of globalization. We have also reached a point in humanity that with the technological advancements we've made in the past few decades, transportation and communication with other people from across the globe are very easy to achieve. In most cases, what caused the terrorist attacks of the 20th century? I believe that these terrorist attacks were meant to deliver a political message. The way in which they decided to achieve that was through violent acts. Terrorists mostly act by the beliefs or needs of the group to which they are affiliated. Some terrorists were associated with the groups related with the state. How does the end of the Cold War relate with the unipolar world? So, as I mentioned previously, the reason why the Cold War is related to a unipolar world is because after the Soviet Union began falling apart, the United States had no one near its level in economic and political aspects. The influence of the United States began to spread worldwide, and so it became the most powerful nation all around the globe. However, currently there have been shifts in the powers over the world, and it has shifted into a multipolar world, where many nations have more power and influence than the US, or in a similar level. So, how has the digital era influenced today's society? The digital era has completely changed the way in which we function, not only in academic or labor related areas. It has affected our social lives as well. Technology has become something essential in our lives. We have reached a point in which many of us depend on it. The way we socialize with others has changed. Now, most of the time, we talk with other people through social media. Like most of the things in this world, it has good and bad aspects. Some of the good aspects would be the optimization and efficiency that we have been able to achieve in our work and academic lives thanks to the technological advancements. And one of the bad aspects would be that people's mental health has been worsening in the past few years. And I believe that social media has played a huge role in this aspect, as well as technology in general. Social media has distorted the way in which we view certain things, and this is affecting a whole generation, which will be the future of this society. And I believe that these technological advancements are great for our society, but we can't always rely on them.